Hi, Susan. Morning.
Hi, morning. Let's give it a few minutes for some people to join, then we can start.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so I think we can start due to the essence of time. So hi, everyone. Thank you for coming on to the data science webinar. And I know a lot of you have a lot of questions about this field. I do get a lot of questions about this field. And I'm hoping that our guest, Billy, will be able to answer them for us. Billy is a seasoned data scientist at Zetova. He's here to share his insights on how to succeed in this field. We're going to have a Q&A session at the end of this. So if you have any questions, please just raise your hand using this icon up here, or you can also type your question in the chat. And yeah, we can begin. Billy, the floor is yours. Also, feel free to share your video if you want to be seen. If you want to tell me, and then I'm going to enable it for you. Okay, Billy, you can start now.
Okay. So morning, everyone. My name is Billy. I'm a data scientist at Zetova. That's it for my introduction. I believe all other things might follow within our discussions, but for now, let me just keep it as simple as that. So ideally, this space is for us just to get to analyze what really happens when we talk about the data space, specifically in Kenya and the broader African space. So I hope this will be an insightful session. Thank you for slotting in your time for this. And yeah, let's begin. So Susan, may I just go ahead and share my screen, if that's okay? I hope it's visible. Okay. So basically, this is just the headline of what's happening today. We are trying to navigate and find out the parts that are majorly considered when getting into the data space. So specifically, when we talk about the common job titles and responsibilities, I'll just try to highlight what usually goes on from aside from what the job description says in the paper and many other things that are expected out there. So I don't know if you'll prefer if I speak a bit fast. I'm a fast speaker, but I can put it a bit moderately. So let me know if I'm moving too fast. So first of all, let me just start off with the data analyst role. So a data analyst, majorly in a company, seeks to just tell stories using data. So the major output from a data analyst in most scenarios is the report. So they're expected to give out quality reports to anyone that leads them in terms of the project they're handling. So if it's something to do with technical aspects, so if you are assigned to report to the CTO or something, you need to give a customized report that suits the understanding of the specific person that you are answering to. So in terms of what really happens is you need to make your data communicate and make a lot of sense to the person you are reporting to in any specific time. So also, I'll just give it that as the brief description, but majorly when you look at a job description, you'll find like one or two pages with a lot of details on what you need to do on your day-to-day basis. But for me, that just sums it up for a data analyst. For most of the time, you'll have the data analyst role overlap in terms of the kind of activities one has on a day-to-day basis with the data scientist role. So majorly, the data scientist will also have a lot of analytical aspects when it comes to their job on a day-to-day basis. So when it comes to a data architect also is someone who can do many other things, but specifically his area of standing out would be to design quality database systems that match the given business models for any specific, it could be an outsourced project or even just a starting business. So a data architect needs to give out quality database designs that matches the structure, the formats of the data types. So when you talk about the dates of birth, how should they be so that how are they handled even within the organizations? So majorly he's the visionary when it comes to looking at the data handling from the moment data is envisioned in a project. And proceeding on, I'll go further on and just compare a majority of these roles to each other so that you understand even the overlapping areas and things that stand out in major areas. So for a data engineer, this is a person that's on a daily basis tasked to design, build, and maintain large data pipelines within an organization. So a data pipeline Okay, you can see a lot of notifications. A data pipeline would be, in simple words, how data is transformed in an organization. So let's say among the data points that are collected from an organization, we have an organization picking out your date of birth. So this necessarily to a layman or someone on the bare eye, it makes no sense. But when they try to transform it, pick out the age of a person, group that into an age category, and use this for binning or even modeling a particular system, now it all makes sense. So the data engineer is responsible for how the data is handled right from the point of collection when you are making your entry for, let's say, date of birth in the system, and when the, let's say, for example, Twitter web application or even an app is wishing you a happy birthday. So the transformation that goes in between there is handled majorly by data pipelines. And now for a data engineer needs to make sure the data pipelines are constantly or with even low minimal interruptions. They're always running up and running. They're scalable, and they're also reliable when it comes to what comes out of the pipelines. For a data architect and a data engineer, I think you can see how the roles compare. There could be a lot of activities that come in as common because majorly it has a lot to do with how the data is handled within organizations or businesses. And now for I'll skip on the data scientist and start with the BI developer or analyst. So this is a person who's tasked to provide a lot of data outputs, but specifically those that inform on business strategy. So this is a person who is expected just to communicate something. So when it comes to how you report, you don't have to make analytics on just what is contained. You need to go a step further and make a connection between how whatever you have as a report communicates a business sense of value to whoever you are reporting to. So this is a person who, in majority of cases, would require some kind of business background. It doesn't have to be a certificate that's picked from a college or let's say a university. It could be just a business understanding of what goes on within an organization, how operations are handled. So your task could even could be like, let's say, using BI tools like Power BI, Tableau, and all that, or even custom BI tools that you can make on yourself from yourself, just to inform on business decisions. So majorly, this is a person that's tasked to improve or inform on business strategy, and that's a BI developer or an analyst. So back to a data scientist. This is considered jack of all trades in majority of cases. But you can also find that in most cases, companies would hire data scientists, but end up giving them a lot of data analytical roles or even tasks. So if what happens with what happens right now, a data scientist, just to give an all-round, is always considered in all aspects of a project. So in majority of cases, you could find there are even team leads in different cases. So he needs to understand right from the moment when data collection or data handling is introduced into a project. He needs to be informed and be part of the thought process and even critic on some of the, let's say, methodologies that are used. So his understanding should be a broad understanding of what goes on in terms of how data is handled, how it's processed, what is communicated from the data source itself, what is expected, will it be achieved? So all these things come in handy when it comes to being a data scientist. Of course, the analytical points, and also there are modeling points. You, as a data scientist, I feel like a majority of people, because this is a field I mostly relate to, majority of people in this space rush to modeling rather than even understanding the business problem or even what's expected as the output. So what is expected is just giving a lot of critics when it comes to unnecessary. If something is really unnecessary, which would increase computation or costs or even something that just lags a system for no reason. You need, as a data scientist, you need to give out ways in which this could be handled better, or even point out areas in which things are relevant to be done in terms of modeling. There are things that would just require matching or even mapping from one. If this value is this and this, then this is the output. So things of that nature. You don't need a model to tell you 1 + 1 is 2 after you already know 0 + 1 is 1. So things of that nature need to be like of a major understanding when it comes to you being a data scientist in an organization. And so for a machine learning engineer, this is majorly on how it was developed was it's a research-based role. So majority of the companies, even in Kenya right now, the big techs in town majorly hire for PhD candidates and people of that caliber, because a machine learning engineer now seeks to understand the machine learning models. You need to understand the difference between KNN and naive Bayes. You need to understand which one do you use during the large data sets. When you have large data sets, which one do you really use when you have unstructured data sets? Which one loops through the data while training all of the data set? So things of this nature are to be understood by a machine learning engineer. On a strong point, a machine learning engineer would require, I don't know if it's really necessary, but I feel like it should be statistical and programming skills, leave alone just a basic system engineering, just understanding how machine learning systems work. You need to understand a little bit of statistics, because at certain points, I believe you'll need to customize some models to suit you as a business or as an organization. So these are some of the roles that currently are, let me say, rapid and growing in terms of the tech space and specifically the data space in Kenya and even in Africa right now. So when it comes to the industries and sector, in Kenya, majorly, we see that if it's not for the new companies that are coming in town, or even those that are growing, there are a lot of industries and sectors that have a lot of demand. And when you see a lot of data scientist positions or even senior data scientist positions, expectations would be you'll have this company either in the financial sector or even in the e-commerce or let's say the wider marketing sector. So for the financial sector, there are a lot of applications, and this is why roles become in demand when there are applications that are required from the role. So let's say we need someone to analyze on credit risks. You'll need a credit risk analyst, or you need a data scientist. So these are the things that are rampant in these fields that bring about the demand. And an easy way to crack into each of these fields would be to pick one of the demanded areas. So you could be a financial data scientist. You work with the product team just to ensure that you have a credit risk analyzing, let's say, application, or you have a fraud detection system in place, or you have portfolio management. Let's say this deals with analyzing majorly just financial assets. You can have assets, or you analyze a loan portfolio for organizations. So, or even algorithmic trading, but this is totally should be done for a flex or just for purposes of, let's say, for purposes of leisure. This is, I don't think is licensed really, but So these are the areas in which if you want to break into the financial sector, you need to have as a bit of the pointers when you are called into an interview. You need to have them as something you've worked on somewhere, or something just you've done a bit of a stretch even in that field, because there are people who could do the basic fraud detection system, but how different do you stand out? Now I'll come into that later, but yeah, this is for the financial sectors. You need to understand when it comes to credit risk, the binnings and the models, which one will you use in a financial sector. Let's say for a bank, those who default are less than those who don't default when it comes to loans. So how do you handle that? Because in banks, you don't go around just replicating or duplicating data just to have the data set as balanced. You can't even use the sklearn imbalanced kind of approach. So that's those are some of the pointers that you need to have in certain specific fields. So when it comes to e-commerce, and this is one of the sectors I also felt as if people are being picked on right now, it doesn't have to be an e-commerce company specifically. It could be even a consultancy doing this for an e-commerce company. So it could be product recommendations that you are doing. It could be, now you need to, when it comes to product recommendation, you need to know item versus item recommendation, or users versus users, so that you know, which one stands out when it comes to recommending. Do you recommend based on the items that are liked by similar users, or do you recommend on just similar users having the same kind of liking? So these are things where lines are drawn now when it comes to having your data science in terms of application after now you've moved from a notebook. So I'll I'll majorly in most of my concept not mention the notebook part, because it's kind of experimental when it comes to the real world. So for product recommendation, that's an approach. For virtual assistants or even the chatbots, you need a chatbot to tell you, like, once you push a chat, it needs to tell you whether, for example, this will be reached out to you by this and this person, or even just an integration of ChatGPT. This could ease out things when it comes to asking non-specific questions which are general in nature. And now, when it also comes to customer churn, this could apply even to the financial sector. And understanding the lifespan of a customer in an organization, this is an area that can help a business know how many customers are we having, how many people are here for like the next 10 years or so, how many people are here for like more, how many are here for less, how many are here before they stop using our insurance policies and even our insurance covers, how many, like, you need to understand the customer churn when it comes to e-commerce also. So this is an area that's widely applied in, let's say, majority of organizations. It could spread out depending on the nature of people that are handled in an organization. So there could be a lot of sectors, but I feel like this would take the top notch when it comes to the space in Kenya and specifically Africa right now. So when it comes to the key skills and qualifications, I was actually, funny enough, I was actually sharing some platform with one of the heads of data science and even the lead data scientist for arguably the biggest financial corporation right now in, let's say, Kenya or Africa. And one of the skills that actually stood out wasn't the technical aspect. So when you ask them, who would you hire as, let's say, a data scientist or even an analyst, they'd start with the communication aspect. So this would come as a shock to a majority of people, because what people actually do mostly is to set out and just start on doing the modeling? Do you know how to model? Do you know how to pick on? Do you know how to use scikit-learn? Do you know how to use? Is it the traditional machine learning algorithms? But when it comes to data specifically, this is an interdisciplinary role. So majorly you have a technical aspect, yes, but you also need to communicate what you find out. If you don't communicate that, then there's absolutely no value that you bring to the table, no matter how complex the models you build are. If you can't communicate that amongst your teammates, if you can't present that to be ridiculed and, let's say, just questioned to a further level, then it's absolutely not worth it. So majorly, communication skills and teamwork skills would stand out when it comes to hiring a data scientist as of now. But this would come in after all the aspects are tied when it comes to candidate evaluation during interviews. So let's say for the technical aspects, you'll need to understand. I had them summarized as this so that I don't have to put in a lot of SQL and MongoDB as they usually appear in the job description. But each one of those roles or even tasks or responsibilities would perfectly fit in one of these boxes. So let's say, for example, you need to understand the data lakes in data warehouses. You need to understand the NoSQL and its advantages of a relational DB. You need to understand how SQL would be beneficial before you introduce it into a project. And you also need to understand a couple of things when it comes to how processing is done, when it comes to just fetching data from the databases. So that would go into the first box, that's data storage and querying. Then there are a lot of data wrangling aspects. This would come when you talk about EDA, exploratory data analysis, and also processing large data sets, just processing data in terms of, now this is rare, but in terms of in column structure than row structure. I know majority of processing happens in row structure, especially when the data set is small, and that's relevant, that's okay. But when it comes to now scaling and having huge data sets, you need to shift towards a rather smooth and even easier handling when it comes to processing of the large data sets. So machine learning aspects for data scientists and specifically machine learning engineers, this would come in handy. Now, understanding PCA, principal component analysis, you understand singular value decomposition and all those aspects. Most of the time, you won't require them, especially when it comes to like the real world applications. Most just require the simple, let me say even linear regression if it can outperform a lot of the models. But unless it's on complex teams, then there are people who prefer, even before giving it a blink, they'd just say make sure you use XGBoost for that because they trust the performance in comparison to other models. So I'll just leave the machine learning aspect out of it because it's for specifically for data scientists and machine learning engineers majorly. So when it comes to soft skills, most of these you find that there are things that just help you become a better person when it comes to ease of working with your colleagues. Your learning and adaptability skills help you become just one who is updated when it comes to how data and its libraries come. When we say the libraries out there that could do what we do in 200 lines now is done in 5 lines of code. Now you need to have the adaptability skills and the learning skills just to be able to move from the 200 lines of code to 5 lines of code. just by learning. So you need also self-management. In all my roles, I've been been based remotely. So this comes in when it comes to self-discipline majorly. You know when to just get in your job, nobody follows you around, being answerable before you are followed up, just the basic things. So these are things that make kind of your life easier, coming in meetings in time or on time, it doesn't matter, but this is just the things that make your colleagues appreciate you easily when it comes to you being in their life on a daily basis. Now there's the aspect of open-mindedness. This is handy. Now, majority of my points would be in relation to the data scientist role because that's who I am. So when it comes to open-mindedness, you need to analyze specific scenarios, let's say, just as use cases. You don't need to stick to having a rigid structure of if this happens, then we need to use this. No, it's actually that's a bad approach. You need to have kind of an open-mindedness. So you can pick a lot of applications or concepts that you used in one use case and transfer them into another, but you have to be cautious on when it comes to the, let's say, the limiting factors. For example, when it comes to banking sector, you are not allowed to use the age or gender columns when it comes to either credit scoring or as things of that nature. So you need to take that into account, but still you can, there are aspects of different projects that you can use. So you being an open-minded person would easily help you come up with solutions. And this also comes in handy when it comes to also problem solving. So those are almost similar. Then lastly, leadership skills. Majorly data scientists would become team leads because of their understanding of the whole cycle when it comes to the project cycle. So right from the input and back to the output to the customer or the user or someone else, anyone who's just based on the platform to gain quality from that platform. You need to understand how to lead, what to expect from each team member, how to interact with people healthily without being abusive or without being in some way rude or something. Now, on the soft side of skills, these are things that you develop on your own. It's not easy to be taught. So on the other side, you can teach yourself the technical and interpersonal skills and become an outstanding person. So this could be summarized into this PowerPoint, but when you pick up the each and every job description, would be it for a data analyst, for a machine learning engineer, for a database administrator, for just a BI analyst or any other role, you'd find this unpacked into 2 to 3 pages of job descriptions, roles and responsibilities, but it all culminates down into these aspects. So next I'll have the trends and emerging tech that shaping the data future. So I'm an avid lover of the robotics. I love how things work on that front, but I'm not. I have a project on developing robotics, yes, but I don't follow it up that much. So I believe one of the things that would shape how the data future work is with the coming of a lot of robotics into play, there could be a lot of AIoT done. That's artificial intelligence with a blend of Internet of Things. So this would bring certain aspects into play, like let's say data at the edge or using cloud services. This would just bring a lot of skills into play. But I think majorly it would be things to do, for anyone not familiar with AIoT, it would be things to do with, let's say, smart intelligent systems for homes, smart intelligent systems for health. So it could be a smartwatch. It could be a smartwatch that, for example, detects your heartbeat and your pulse rate or something, not a heartbeat. Then there's also let's say automatic lighting when it comes to when it's in the evening and you are not home, the windows close, the lights are up, they get either upgrade from a security level 2 to a security level 3 or 4. So things of that nature, just having intelligent systems come into play. So this would be, I don't know, in the next 1 or 2 decades, because they are already commercialized products, but specifically for different kind of wealth groups. So right now they are custom made for wealth groups and in specific regions. Even in Kenya, they're already there. But then this is something that we now, when we've already started using robots to detect our temperatures when entering into a building, these are things that will now need to be incorporated. The robots would have to tell us what they're measuring. Instead of just standing in front of a robot, it could just indicate temperature or something. It could even speak and tell you, ask you which room are you headed to for the conference and direct you. So things of that nature. I'm just trying to imagine data in blend with a lot of robotics. So this is AIoT. This is one of the spaces I know would be rapid enough, especially in the near, like, let's say at least 10 years, now a decade to come, that would make sense. And also education. Now there's a lot of entrepreneurial growth happening in this space. A lot of people are coming up with startups or businesses or programs just to complain on the cost of education being high. Yet all this information could be decentralized and actually distributed to people right from home, or even from when they're jogging, they could be listening to a book. When they are exercising or in the gym, they could be listening to, let's say, a Spotify playlist. So just having curated content that's distributed all over the place. This is something that we'll need now to be put into play, because I don't believe you still have to be connected to the internet to listen to a book for over 4 to 5 hours. That's a lot. Now, all this will be decentralized in terms of we'll have data being stored on the edge devices, sorry, and also we'll have this rollout into a couple of things. So this could be a huge deal. I'm not sure, because this is now speaking of the future. I'm not sure how it would exactly play out when it comes to now fast forwarding now into the next decade or two. But this is something that's already been rolled out, and I know the data will be coming in handy in a huge deal. So that's something to watch out for. And also when it comes to green tech, this is specifically for the, let's say, large and commercialized farming sectors. So there are organizations that are already putting this into practice. I know there could be some 1 or 2 directors, friends of mine, who are already helping organizations hand in green technology and using AI and other data services, data intelligence services, just to make their greenhouse or even their farm more efficient. So it could be irrigation, it could be self-diagnosing of plants, and then one more diagnosis is done with someone on the farm. It could be things to do with temperature regulating. It could be anything around just the green area, but using technology to make the green area a little bit more efficient. So this is a space that I know would stand out in terms of having AI and data science specifically. There are already organizations that are analyzing the kind of fertilizers that are required, right down to the metrics and the small, let's say, quantities that each plant would require and for what specific period. So if we give this plant fertilizer from 1st of June, then we need to make sure we also give it after 2 months this kind of quantity from around 10th of October. So these are things that are already coming into play, but still they haven't been scaled to everyone. But I know there are things that are going to rather still shape the data future. So I left out the two spaces just in case anyone has an idea of what would come, and anyone can just drop their points in there, because I know the future is full of imaginations. And yes, if you are crazy enough to imagine and you are crazy enough to build, then that's the future. So that's something that's just left out. It could be any other sector that not anyone can, let's say, imagine, but anyone can build. So if you are a builder, you can have that something you are working on as the next 2 points for that. So I think this could be the last slide. I'm not sure. What are the tips and strategies that are required for job seekers, specifically in the data space? So I understand, first of all, there's a pool of talent when it comes to how the data scientist role or even the data analyst role in relation to now the ratio when it comes to those who need to be picked for specific roles and those who have the skills to get into those positions. It's kind of a high ratio, whichever way you look at it. So let's say, for example, only 15% are required, but out of a pool of 100%, 85% would now need to be dropped. So these are things that I feel like if you do, you could put yourself into the 15% category. It could be even 5%, doesn't matter. This is a random metric. So one of the things would be to work on projects. So when you talk about projects, we don't mean if you train to be a data scientist or machine learning engineer, you must be familiar with the iris and diabetes kind of diabetes detection and iris classification tasks. So these are not the projects we are talking about. So if you walk into an interview and that's what you have to present, unless your explanation is more different and diverse from all other candidates, then it's actually not something that puts you on top. So you need to build great projects. You don't, if you build on the iris or diabetes, although they have already been ridiculed so far in the data space, you need to have some great aspect. You need to have your manager have that wow moment. One of my managers would tell me, in any project, he needs to see the smart aspect, like what really makes you stand out when it comes to building certain projects. So all of you could have built, let's say, a smart application that could do, let's say, take a picture of an eye. Now, this is one of the solutions that was presented at Imagine Cup, Microsoft. Picture of an eye and would give you a diabetes classification. So rather than just have a 101 kind of classification using the data set. So you go a notch further just to build in the great aspects to bring some real world application into it. So this is something that I feel like most data scientists don't reach up to. Most of them would pick on notebooks and execute them after 3 days of a week, go and update their roles as data scientists, which is okay, it's fine. But then when it comes to now picking out from the pool of talent, people will need to know, like, what are the great aspects about you? What is it that you can add to any basic project that makes it now not a standard project, but an excellent project? So another thing would be to keep learning the latest techniques and libraries, of course. There are a lot of libraries. We were having, like, it's already Python 3.10 or something. It could be Python 4 by tomorrow. Will you know Python 4 by tomorrow? Or will you need a day or two to know Python 4? Or will you take like 5 months to know Python 4 was out 5 months ago? So these are things that just would pick or will help you like picture kind of a scenario where the organization is shifting rapidly. Now they need to put a lot of systems in production and have their customers easily satisfied and even more like and more amused by the softwares that are there on the website. So let's say, for example, your prediction would take like let's say it's a text auto completion. So when you're typing, right, when you're typing on your keyboard, there are texts that autocomplete. So if your prediction for, let's say when I type str, for it to bring me structure, it takes a longer time than for me just actually typing in the word structure. Then there's not really a sense of having that into production because the customers are getting less patient by decades. Was it 2010? Like if a website loads for around 3 seconds, the users are already like have already left the websites. But now you see with the Gen Z and a lot of young generation coming into the internet system, I don't think any young person would wait for like 3 seconds to load or something of that nature. They'll need a little bit, even less time for it to load. So you need to have systems that are reliable, systems that are actually useful when it comes to being of the real world application. And also for the next one would be to network and contribute to projects and ideas. Now, when I talk about network and contribute, I'm not focused on you networking and contributing as a data scientist. So you can network with any other person. It's okay. It's fine. Majorly data scientists would report to CEOs, boards, would report to directors with their outputs and all that. But that doesn't limit your scope of network. So you need to just learn to network and cultivate relationships that are majorly based on trust. This is just even this is like widely applicable even if you're not a data scientist. But then when it not comes to contribution, you need to contribute. Doesn't have to be as a data scientist. You could just help set up something, become part of something that's a bit radical, that's something that's a bit let's say amusing to become part of, something amazing. Let's say it changes something. Let's say, for example, you are trying to help an organization that's, this is an example, that's just trying to, let's say, is it have an agricultural intelligence system. So let's say you could even just contribute a model that would accurately just classify which plant it is. It doesn't have to say whether it's healthy or not, but just one aspect. So a lot of people would go into space and fear that they'll be stuck into the contribution phase for like a whole 3 to 5 years. That's fine, but what contribution are you leaving even like in the next 1 or 2 lines of code that you're going to write? That's the important part. So just become part of something amazing. That's something that I would recommend. You never know how it plays out. And also, as Denzel Washington would say it, you'd need to have a lot of consistency, whichever the game you play in. Is it data scientist? Is it software reliability engineer? Is it a machine learning engineer? Is it anyone who comes into play? Anyone who is in the tech space would require a lot of consistency. Anyone in any other space would require this. So these are some of the things that I feel would make you become great when it comes to what you do at your job, and also just self-growing in terms of from an individual aspect. And finally, I think, as I said, that was the end. So thank you so much. I know that was some good minutes, of your time that has been taken, but I hope it was great for you, and I hope you have insights from that. So, Susan, I'll pick a few questions before we resume back to our weekends. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Billy. That was very insightful. I have learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone has too. We have 10 minutes left, so we can get right into the Q&A session. Minda, I see you told me you have a question, so let me enable your mic. All right, please go ahead. You can unmute, Minda.
All right, sorry, I was on mute. So thank you, Susan. Thank you, Billy, and good morning, everyone. So on my first question, based on your presentation, Billy, so if where you're sitting right now as a data scientist, if you're given a role in an organization that hasn't really what do we call it, invested in using data analytics for any decision making, how would you use your platform as a data scientist to steer that kind of an organization into appreciating the role of data analytics in its performance in decision making? And then the next question is, is there anyone who is using Azure DevOps for documentation and pulling data from Azure DevOps for analytics and visualization? Please, I would use your assistance because I'm in a place right here where I have to get data from Azure DevOps. It's something I've never used before. I just got introduced to it, and I'm experiencing a lot of inconsistencies with documentation and getting the right data that I need for analytics. Thank you.
Okay. I'll pick that. Let me start with Minda. Thank you for your questions. First question was, how do you get an organization that's not officially like up to the par when it comes to an establishment of appreciation of the data analytics aspect, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this would be, I'd use a general approach that I usually use. You just need to, first of all, it's not really that scientific, but if you pick certain aspects of it, you'd still get to it. So first, you need to give a little bit of contrast, like where the organization is right now. You need to have the metrics outlined, and also you need to have a picture of where the organization could be in the next, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And now you need to tell them how data analytics would help move this organization from this first phase into the next phase. And I'm assuming the next phase, which is the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, should be a better phase. So you need to tell them, if we have data analytics, we'll have pointers on this and this. So one of the things that, for example, when I was doing some project for African financial operations, what would help them would be just highlighting, if I do this for you, you'd avoid your alert meetings as board members just trying to discuss the same financial techniques that, oh, we have this kind of loan portfolio, we have this kind of people that have this cash in hand, and for the next phase, we'll need this kind of amount. So how do you guarantee them high risk, high returns? So things of that nature, you need to first of all understand what their expectation would be and how data analytics would help them as an organization move from that phase, first of all, into the next phase. So this is something that's very diverse when it comes to organizations, because different organizations have different visions. And so you'll just need to have that customized for, let's say, how do I put it? If your organization needs to move from a place where decision making has been difficult, you need to have that clearly pointed out that this would help in this and this aspects of decision making. So just having kind of a path, channeling the data analytics impact from moving the organization from one phase into the next, and how that would be possible. That's a good one. That's something that's is usually undeniable. So the next question, which is on Azure DevOps, we use it for monitoring. So Minda, I'm not sure about how you'd like to pull the data out of that, but I know I could be of help when it comes to that because I've used it before. I don't know. I can just give you my email, and I'll just give you a short pointer. It won't take like even a minute of your time. Let me see. That's my personal email. Yeah, you can just email me, then I'll just give you sort of a clear path direction. Yeah.
I will really appreciate that, Billy.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. Be sure to follow up. Then what's the next one? We have Faith. Okay, let me just read them out. My question is, you've talked about putting the effort in knowing the current trends in data science. So for a student in that field, how can one get to know more about events, bootcamps, networking events in Kenya surrounding? Okay, this is okay. So this question would be majorly based on how your networks are when it comes to social platforms. So when it comes to events, you need to know the event organizers. Let's say I don't know if they're here, but for, let's say, for example, Nairobi I, there's Data Science Africa, there's Lux Academy, there's a lot. I can't mention them off the top of my head, but there are quite a number. So this is majorly on establishing like a lot of good social relationships or networks on your platforms. So you can follow them on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on which other platform, there could be Slack workspaces. Yes, there are a lot. Yeah, this is majorly just on the social aspect. And also, for how long have you been in the industry as a data scientist, and what are some of the challenges you have faced all along, and what are the remedies in case we face the same problems? Yeah, I know. Okay, well, for how long have I been in the industry? Let me see. I was doing data science sometime before. When I was doing game development, I was doing data science on the side, but I used to write data science code for fun. So since I started working, I remember, okay, the first time I built an application that would just do a lot of predictions on stock and make a call and send you an email when certain stocks were down or before you purchase them. So this was around 2019, 2020? I'm not sure. But I've had a couple of projects documented on that end. So if I look at my projects, I could tell you. So there is a different phase because I've had two learning phases for data science specifically. So I could have that out. So it's roughly like 3-4 years right now. 3-4 years. Yeah, 3-4 years. So some of I know, yeah, a lot of mistakes, dumb mistakes that could be avoided, and there is no need to repeat the same mistakes. So one of the things is assuming machine learning could be a solution for each and every problem, which it's kind of cool, but when it comes to now the real world, that's not actually the scenario, and that's something that people need to learn to know when it comes to how you become an efficient data scientist. So majorly, I'd say you need to learn the different aspects of problem solving. now you need to know what really matches what you are able to provide. If something that doesn't require machine learning, don't use machine learning. Just use the basic approach or something of the sort. That's fine. That's one of the challenges. What other challenge have I faced? I'm not sure. Okay, it's good to learn. Yeah, this is one of the things. It's good to learn different technologies. Doesn't matter whether you use it or not. When something is, you find something has a lot of advantages, it could either even help you to help an organization transition from one phase to the next after knowing exactly what that kind of approach would do. So it's good to learn because it would always, in any scenario or meeting, give you shoulder above the rest, just to know like the wide areas of application, how it compares to the existing applications and all that stuff. So constant learning, it's just it's not just for flex, but it will help you when it comes to now making your decisions. Even when it comes to brainstorming, you'll have a lot of things in hand to compare from. Since most companies require people with some experience in their job requirements, how can one who has just started gain that? Yeah. This is a bit, yeah, this is a good question. It has no direct answer, but I think most of the companies would look at your project portfolio, like where I am right now. That's what sits out for me. I'm actually working for a role that has more years of experience, but because of the projects I started to do way back in the day, so those are counted as my years of experience. So you need to have some, let me say, clear-cut project portfolio that just documents the kind of solutions that you've been able to come up with for different problems. So in majority of companies, this would stand out. And also, especially when hiring for data science, because mostly they require a recommendation or a proof that you are good at what you say you are good at. So here the answer would be just pick a couple of projects that are good for showcasing. And also, what next? Usually just apply for the jobs even when the experience is required. Just ignore that part. If you feel like you have what it takes, you just go ahead and apply. That's just something that's not coming up. And also there's piggybacking from Minda's question, how to cover all for yourself where the organization does have data that it collects and monitors, but they don't actually have any data-oriented role. How to cover all for yourself. So this would answer this directly, but before you cover all for yourself, you need to look at the you need to look at the specific strengths that you hold as an individual. So for example, let's say you understand a lot of machine learning, design systems and operations, model monitoring, and also updating the models. So you need to actually know the aspects of that role before you make that role suitable for you. So majorly, what you'd require in most cases would be just showcase your skills and make the organization understand how this makes the organization more efficient, or even achieve what they achieve, make more profit, the basics, make more profit or reduce risks, or even cut on costs, things of that nature. So that's something. Just have the skills for your role and also show them how the role is necessary and what's the boost it will bring. Then there's another one on this: where does one get projects to work on as you're still learning or still trying to learn? I think this is it's not a no-brainer. The projects, majorly just brainstorm, look at something that moves around. something that's exciting. Like when I create let's say, for example, that which would make a system that would make a call when the stocks are down and predict when the stocks would be up in the next 3 or 4 hours. It was a hot point in terms of financial markets when it comes to trading, a lot of foreign exchange kind of things. So I was just trying to be fascinated with what gets these people excited, because I'm not a trader myself. So these are just things that you see on a day-to-day basis, especially building on things that are around you, are very critical. So it's even easy to relate to when you explain to one of your managers or someone who's interviewing you. That's I hope that answers your question. And also in your journey in transitioning into data, were employers really concerned in kind of educational learning materials you use? Online courses. Well, or was it your project that mattered more? Since, well, this would be okay. This okay. There are two strong points. There are online courses that in different companies would show that one, you're self-determined and an adaptable learner, someone who's up to the speed when it comes to understanding what's usually rolled out for data scientists or just any data-oriented role. That could come in as a strength if you have online courses, and also project portfolio would also come in as a strength. But now, when you don't have both, one that you need to have majorly is a project portfolio, because organizations don't hire for you to, let's say, learn a course or something. They usually hire for you to solve problems, build on projects. So if you just show